All right, take two, because the first one didn't work. And today, welcome to the FVD++ tutorial. So you load in, you hit add, oh wait, no, you hit edit. And then you hit add, straight section. And then so you go to anchor. I like to put it at about 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet. And you make it, however long the train is. And you hit curved. Put the direction to 0 degrees. Do about 30 track radius. Total angle, we can do 30. Let's do like 34. Track radius. You do add straight section. And you scroll holding shift until this number reaches about 200, because that's the height. And you add curve section again. Let's go with about 5 miles per hour. Direction 180, so that's putting it, straight down. Lead out 0, but lead in, leave it how it is. We can do about like 31, 32. Just whatever feels right for the track radius. And then we'll put the pitch right here to 0. And then remember this, so 32 track radius. You add another curve section, this time with no fixed speed. 0 lead in and 0 lead out. And pardon me going fast. This is my second time recording it, and I want to go faster. Direction, again, 180 degrees. Track radius, the same. So what was it, 32? Yep, 32. All right, and then total angle, and then bring that down to about... Yeah, that looks okay. 0.3 Gs. And you hit add force section. Scroll over here. Hit the green to dynamic. So that just keeps the lateral g-forces at 0 the whole time. The red is the roll. You just kind of make a bunch of them. And then the blue is your vertical g-forces. And so we're going to put this first one to quadratic. We're going to do blend out. And then we're going to bring it down to about negative 0.3 Gs. And see how it's a nice, good, smooth transition. And let's say if you wanted it to do 0 Gs, see how it's a rough transition, so then you would shorten it till the graph was like a nice smooth. But we're gonna do, 0.2 Gs, or negative 0.2 Gs. That's a good shape. And then you'll bring it up by shortening the time of it, and then append. We'll do about 0.8 seconds, and then bring that up to like 3.3 Gs. All right, so that kind of goes underground, so we gotta bring it back up by shortening the drop. That's pretty good. To write it, you right click and then hit spacebar. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Heart lining action. Okay, so go to help and conversions. And this is all your heart lining stuff. So right now we're doing Hypercoaster 4-seat, which is the B&M one. So that's plus 1.1 meters. It's at 1.1 meters by default of the heart line. So you don't really have to worry about that all too much. I usually keep it as the default, but if it's something different, like the flying coaster, or, a corkscrew, most of them are either 1 meter or 1.1 meters. So you usually don't have to worry about that, but that's there if you need it. All right. Now for our first airtime hill, so we will take it to about 0.6 seconds for the transition. that's really just for B&M coasters, or for B&M Hyper coasters. Most every other coaster keep the transition at minimum of 1 second. And then about between 50 and 60 degrees for this first one for the pitch. So you'll see it's 56 right there. So that's pretty good. And if you want it, steeper, you increase the pitch. If you want it shallower, you decrease the pitch. But I'm happy with this. All right, so that's your first airtime hill complete. Beautiful. And then to turn it, we're going to grab, let's make it like 2 seconds long. I'm going to grab, so if you start it earlier, it kind of is not flush with the floor. It kind of like does that. But if you start turning later, then it puts it closer to the ground. And then we'll start turning back upwards. And 0.6, bring that down to negative 1 point or 0.1. Fix this, we'll bring that up higher. You kind of just adjust things, get the roll as close to 0 as you want it. Or like if you want it flat. And then sometimes, like I go up, I hold control and I move and see how it's like, they're both 0.90 or 0.090. You go in with that second number and you hit 5. And then adjust it and then boom, now you're at 0. I want that control. So I'm holding control, so that adjusts it a small amount. But you want to keep the red or the roll kind of the same. So if this blue I moved by 0.05, then I shorten one of these by 0.05. That way they're the same. They're lined up the same. Bring it back to 3.3. All right, let's do one more hill. Adjusting it to get the parabola how I like it. I'll just, the red ones, again, the same. It's 6, 6. All right, that's pretty good. And now we will do a little turn. up into a mid-course. Oh, and something else. If you go over here to graph list, hit the arrow next to markers and do POV position, that'll tell you where you are on the graph. And so I turned a little bit, and then to flatten out, I start turning the other way, but while I'm lowering the G-force. Because if I didn't, then, you know, we'd be doing this. And that's a lot of G-forces. And yes, it says it's holding 3.3 the whole time. But with the length of the train and stuff, it'll be really high G-forces. And we don't want that. So then I just turn it. And I'll set the G-force to 1 G's until this is between -2 and -4 degrees. That way we have a downward slope on the mid-course. I'm just adjusting this roll number until we have close to 1 or close to 0 degrees. Awesome. And then we'll hit add straight section, hit no fixed speed, make it about 60 to 70 feet long because that's how long the train is. We'll add force section, dynamic on the green, make a bunch of the red. You'd like 0.8 seconds. Bring that down to -0.01, or -0.1 rather. 3.2 this time. Now, sometimes, especially when you're going fast, the friction and stuff will not line up exactly from here into No Limits. So what we'll do right now is we'll hit Control S to save it. And I have a folder called FVD. I think there is, if I just hit Control S. You can just save it, but in order to make it easier for me to find stuff, you can go to your desktop, hit and right click, and go to new, and make a new folder, and just title it FVD. That's what I do. And then you save it as a name, so I'll do, tutorial hyper. I'm just gonna copy that. And then you save it, and then you hit Control Shift E, and that's how you export it. So it'll bring up this, and you hit OK. And then you go, for me, it's already saved right here. com.nolimits coaster, but that won't be there for you. So what you have to go to do is you have to go to your personal folder, go to Documents, go to com.nolimitcoaster.nolimits2, and then you title it whatever you want, so tutorial hyper, and you hit save, and then you go into No Limits, you'll create a new park, new coaster. I just call them F. And you find the B&M Hyper one, which is right there. Go to Mode, You do heartline of current coaster style. That way it's heartlined correctly. And then we'll do 8 cars long. You go to element. You go to add element. Home. And you scroll down. Ignore the folder ones. You scroll all down, which you won't have to scroll because it should be like your first one. We'll find tutorial hyper, and it's all in alphabetical order. There it is. Double click on it, hit OK, and here it is. And it's usually stuck into the ground just a little bit, so I raise it up. And you put the lift section and another one at the end just so it allows the block zones. Because if this is not here, then it won't depart off of the lift hill. But if you put this as lift, then it can advance into the next block. Oh, where'd it go? Sometimes you'll have to go over here, put it to normal track, and put it back to lift, and then now it's there. And so now it'll advance. And so you hit freeze, hit Alt X to leave this, and then hit yes, and then you hit play, and hit F2 for your G-force readout. Awesome. And then watch the speed. So 20 miles per hour by the end. Let's see what it is on here. So this says it's 22. So it's going slower in this game than it is in this program. So what we can do is we can tell it, you can click fixed speed and then write 20 miles per hour. That way it's like lined back up to what it's supposed to be, and then we can write in the back row if you'd like, just to see the G-forces across the entire train, just to make sure nothing is too extreme or anything. Awesome. Everything looks good. So right now I'm kind of feeling a little speed hill. So what we'll do is we can keep it at 0.6. And then for speed hills, I like to do, instead of negative 0.1, I like to do negative 0.3. All right, and then that's running into that. So what we can do is we can make a little two section segment right here. And we can go over, we can change it from quartic to quintic, and then change this to double bump, and then we can increase the turn. And so that, what that's doing is it turns and then it smoothly turns the other way. But see, now we're a little angled. So this number that says 5, you can change that until you get close to 0. Make that a little higher up off the ground. Awesome. Bring that up to, let's do 3.2. Do another hill. Make it to the where I like the shape. turn it. Negative 0.1. Bring that up. So this is kind of pointing us that direction, and I don't want it to. I want it to become parallel to this first track. So what I'll do is I'll prepend this. That way we don't turn until later, which means we become roughly parallel to it. The shorter this is, the more angled we are there. Actually, let's do something fun. Instead of this being a normal, let's do like a little candemonium kind of thing. So we're gonna change this to quintic, double bump 1. But we're gonna lower this, or which direction is it? Yeah, there we go. All right. So what I've done there is, so instead of it flattening out at the top and then coming back down, I've increased it. So at the apex, we're kind of sideways. And then let's get this number. See, but it'll change the steepness we are by changing this number. I want to be steeper, so let's go like that. Let's lower. And then change this number until we're at close to 1. There we go. And that's a fun little Outer Bank moment, similar to on Candemonium. And so since this isn't just a straight airtime hill, I'm going to make this more than just 0.6. Let's make it a full 1 second transition. Yeah, I like that a lot better. And then this one is also a full 1 second transition. All right, but since we changed that, now I gotta change this again. All right, looks good to me. Let's keep it like that. Okay. And that's kind of heading towards the track. So let's actually not bring this fully flat. We'll make it just a tad banked, so we're turning to the right. And then right here we can bring it back to flat. That way we're not on a collision course. And then something you gotta watch out for on these B&M Hypers, when or really a lot of coasters, when you get towards the end, when they're losing speed. So if we kind of do the same shape we've been doing, where it's kind of, you know, steeper like this. Where do we have this? In the front of the train, it'll end up pulling forces we don't want it to pull. Right now I'm just doing this as an example to show you. So the first one is how we don't want it. And the second one is how we do want it. So see how this one is much more steep on either end than this one. So we're gonna hit Control. I every time I export, I had to save it. So I do Control S, Control E, and then we can come over here, hit Escape, hit Edit, hit Control Z to unfreeze it. Select it all, hit Delete. Go to Elements, go to Add Elements, and go to Recent, and it's just right there at the top. That way you don't have to go searching for it each time. And then we add the lift segments. And we hit Freeze Coaster. Alt X. Yes. Play. F2. So you see how this one we pull like strong G's, but then this one is more normal. And that's kind of a bad example because we still have a decent amount of speed. But you get the idea. This one it pulled like 0.7, maybe 0.8 G's at the apex. This one I think stopped at 0.5. I really like that. So what we'll do is we will shorten that. And we can do a little helix to end things off, just so you know how to do a helix. So to enter, I like to bring this to quartic and bring it down. We can hit prepend, shorten that. There we go. It looks like somewhere we didn't adjust the red. So what we can do is we can grab the one before it, hit dynamic, and that brings it all the way to the end of the blue. Unclick dynamic, hold shift, and scroll down 1. And so that's 1 second, but this is 1 and once. This is 1 second, or we can, boom, boom. And now these are the same length, and we can twist it. Awesome. And so there's 2 ways you can do a helix. There's the way I first did, and then there's the way I do now. The first way is to grab just every second, do a little bump up. And, you know, that works, but it looks kind of wobbly. So what I do now is I make it a cubic section. So that way it always is constantly angling upwards. And then to exit, we can angle it like really upwards like this. We can also bring out, make it a little airtime moment to exit it. Cubic, and bring this down to 0 right here. And you can change, this is the plus. You want to bring that back down to 0. Let's see, that is still angled. So to adjust that, you can either adjust the time or the center. Center is usually what I go with. I just hold Control and then scroll until it's at 0. And then we can do a little hop into the break. Bring that up to about 1G. Down just a little bit, and you hit straight section. And we set this to 20 feet. So let's angle that down a little bit more by extending the transition from airtime to 1G. And that'll angle it down more. Then add curve section. And adjust it until this is 0. If it's doing the weird thing where see it's -3 degrees, and then add 1 degree, it should say -2, but now it says 1. You can get rid of the lead-ins and stuff and increase the track radius, and then that should make it more accurate. All right, and so now that's at 0. But it's still it's too low. So what I'll do is I'll make a big old straight segment, and I'll put my camera on that, and then I'll select the downward track segment, and I'll shorten it until this number says 20. Hold Control for final movements. There you go. So it's now it's at 20. We can delete this now and go in with the curve segment and put it until the yaw is 0. And then shorten the track radius until the Z reads 0. then you're done. So now you hit Control S. And since we added stuff past this, you have to Control Shift export again. And so this, if you hit export now, it only export until this section 8. So you have to come here and select section 11. Hit OK. Find this one again. And then Tutorial Hyper. And you can just select it. Save. Yes. Replace it. You come back in here. Edit. Control Z to unfreeze it. Select it. Delete it. Element. Add element. Recent. Tutorial Hyper. OK. Select it. Raise it up a bit. Put the lift section. Add the brake run. Connect these. Station. And we can add 2 trains, because this can be like the holding brake. So you have to hit enable transport device and hit centered on section. We can make this a transport section, so section type transport, and by default it's 5 miles per hour on a friction tire. Brake, and then we can move that to 8 miles per hour is usually what I get to, because this hysteris, so it's at by default 3 miles per hour. So how it works, let's make it 2 just for, so it's a little confusing. So if you lose me, that's okay. But if it's 2 miles per hour, if the hysteresis is 2 miles per hour, that means if you add 2 to 8, then it's 10 miles per hour. So if the train is traveling above 10 miles per hour, it's going to activate the brake. And it won't let go of the brake until it's 8 minus 2. So speed limit minus hysteresis. So it'll slow it down until it reaches 6 miles per hour. And then it will release the brake. And then if it reaches 10 miles per hour, it'll brake again until it reaches 6 miles per hour again. So I just leave it on 3. It's not super important. But for like trim brakes and stuff, when you get a little bit more advanced, it can start to matter. And then this can be our lift section. And over here can be our mid-course, which, let's see, I'll just set it to like 55 miles per hour because it's never going to reach that. And then you hit freeze. You hit all X, you hit yes, you hit play. You hit F2. You speed it up, speed the game up with the plus and minus on the number pad. And there you go. Now we can watch it from the back car. You change rows by pressing C, you change seats by pressing V. All right. And then another thing which I like to check, I'm actually not too sure if it'll be okay on this one. So as soon as it departs the lift chain, you press F8, and that turns on the e-stop. You can also press F4 and press the e-stop button. And so that will cause it to stop on this mid-course. And the reason I'm checking this is because I like my roller coasters to be realistic. So if they have to e-stop on the mid-course, I want to make sure it has the momentum it needs to finish the course. So it'll brake right here. And then hit F8 again to release it. It looks like it should be okay. I'm worried about that second hill. Let's see. All right, we're good. So obviously it'll be traveling slower, but it'll be able to finish the course. All right, and there you go. I look forward to seeing what you end up making. That's a pretty tight curve. Yeah, the train is clipping into itself. I try to avoid that, but this was just... If I was actually making it, I would end up turning it more this way, so we can have a wider turn radius here, so we don't have the cars clipping into each other. But that's just nitty-gritty. Doesn't really matter. All right. Thank you very much.